This party's getting crazy. Let's rock!
Devil May Cry.
Hey everyone! Dank Knight Sparta here, coming at you with a review of Devil May Cry 5. Yep, so honestly, I didn't think that this game was ever going to happen. I thought that, with the way the Devil May Cry 4 ended, we weren't going to see another game. Especially after this happened. Garbage reboot. So, what does Devil May Cry 5 bring to the table? Well, for one, it brings back theming, it brings back solid combat and level design, and there aren't any recycled environments. But those are things that I am going to leave for a little bit later, because when it comes to a character action game, what's the most important thing to talk about? Oh yeah, the characters. Right, obviously. So let's go ahead and start with Nero. He's easily had the most changes from his iteration in Devil May Cry 4. Considering that, his arm got ripped off, it's kind of a big deal. In place of the Devil Bringer, Nero now has the mechanical Devil Breakers. So there are 8 of them that you can use in the game. They all have a lot of different abilities. You've got Helter Skelter for breaking guards. You've got Overture for just hitting people really hard with an electroshock. You've got Ragtime for literally stopping time, like the Quicksilver style in Devil May Cry 3. And that's kind of the thing, is that these Devil Breakers, they're Nero's idea of style. So at most you can have 8 of them, and it is kind of crappy that you can't switch between them freely. You have to destroy them in order to switch between them, and this can happen if you get hit while you're using any of their moves, or if, you use their super move called the Break Age, which is different for all of them. In the case of Ragtime, you completely stop time around you instead of a localized bubble. Or in the case of Punchline, you do a real impact, which automatically makes it the best one in a lot of people's eyes. But I like Gerbera because you can bounce around with your little rocket fist. I think that one's really cool. I also enjoy Helter Skelter and Rawhide because of their combo potential. My least favorite being Tomboy because you can't lock on and it completely nerfs your combo game for doing massive amounts of damage. Aside from this, though, Nero is relatively unchanged. He's got a couple of new moves for him to utilize, and once you reach a certain point in the game, you'll be able to get his old suite of powers back. Because this is Devil May Cry, and the team that Itsuno leads isn't exactly known for taking things away from the player, just, kind of blocking them over the course of gameplay progression. Then you have the new boy, Mr. Poetry himself, V. He fights by utilizing a couple of familiars because he is not a demon, or even a half-demon, or even a quarter demon. He's a human with a little dash of demonic power. So his familiars are Shadow for your melee attacks, Griffin for your ranged attacks, and Nightmare, which is just a giant hulking beast that shoots laser beams like it's Ramiel from Evangelion or something. However, none of these familiars can actually finish off enemies. You'll have to do that using V, which puts you directly in the line of fire. So if you mistime it and you jump the gun, you're gonna get hit, which isn't a big deal because despite V being human, he can still take hits like Dante and Nero. So Nightmare basically acts like your Devil Trigger. He's the main thing that you're using the meter for. However, you can also use your meter to power up Shadow and Griffin. And when you do this, they act autonomously. So if you're having a little bit of a hard time controlling the crowd and you feel like you need to give your hand a bit of a break, you can DT Shadow and Griffin and they'll do their own thing, and that means you can taunt. And I love taunting with V because a lot of his taunts put him in place, like he'll play the violin with his cane, or he'll actually conduct Ride of the Valkyries, and these are awesome because when you get them and all of the chaos is happening around you, you're just like, ugh. So then we have Dante. Dante is exactly the same as he was in Devil May Cry 4, albeit without the Dark Slayer style. which makes sense considering that he gave the Yamato to Nero, but, you know, Nero kind of lost the Yamato. Again, his arm got ripped off. So Dante still has Trickster, Swordmaster, Gunslinger, and Royal Guard, and they function exactly the same as they did in Devil May Cry 4. If you have the Gunslinger style equipped with Ebony and Ivory on, then Ivory shoots really fast when you hit the shoot button, and Ebony has one like really slow shot that you get when you hit the style button. So that's kind of important. But yeah, that's it. Bye! You can level them up, get access to more stuff, and depending on which one you use, your combo game is going to change quite a bit. And of course, Swordmaster is the best because you can, you know, real impact with Balrog. Speaking of Balrog, it's the brand new gauntlet weapon, and Dante gets to start with it, which I think is crazy. It's got two variations, one for punching, one for kicking, and you can switch between them basically at will. They have way different combo game in general, and they also have different ways of flaming on, to power up. With the kick variant, you have to hold down Y and you get the fire. With the punch variant, you have to punch somebody 10 times and then boom, you got it. And once you have Swordmaster level 4, if you're flamed on, you can hit your style button back and ooh boy. Which you can still distort, which to many people, myself included, is the best thing about Dante. So of course, there are new taunts. Depending on where your style meter is at the time, you'll get different taunts. And if you're at S, you get crazy stuff to go on. In addition to this, there are also air taunts, which completely change the dynamic of the game. Nero's air taunt is more or less an extra jump. And if you time it right, you can even max act during an air taunt with Nero, which expands his combo game immensely, as if the, you know, new moves with their super armor weren't enough for you. Dante's involves him throwing a rose like he's using Lucifer from Devil May Cry 4, and if the rose hits, it actually deals damage and gives you more style than if it doesn't. So keep that in mind. V's, on the other hand, is him bowing and in the air. However, if you have S style or above with V, and you use an air taunt, he'll go twirling around to the ground, spread his hands out, and say, "I admire your optimism." And it gives you so much more style. If you watched the intro, then you'll probably see me do that at the perfect time. Now, all of these characters wouldn't be anything if there weren't interesting levels for them to explore, and Devil May Cry 5 has got some pretty good levels. They're all organized right for the characters that you have to use in each specific one. They're a lot more open-ended than they were before. Combat arenas allow for a lot more freedom in combat because you aren't enclosed in tight spaces most of the time, and secrets are incredibly well hidden. In fact, some secrets can only be accessed by interacting with special parts in other levels. It's really interesting. There's a mission with Nero that's followed by a mission with V. And if you destroyed a blood clot with V, in his mission, then when you go back and do Nero's mission again, you'll find there's a new open path because it activates a set piece. Now, when there are shared missions between the characters, they aren't really as open-ended. You can actually see this in the intro. All of those clips are from the exact same mission. Every single character can go through Mission 13, fighting the exact same enemies in the exact same order, going through the exact same level. And it functions as a combat arena, which is great because as of right now, Bloody Palace is still unavailable. It's going to be coming out as free DLC in April, which is fine, I guess. I don't know why we had to wait for Bloody Palace. I guess they wanted to make sure that all 100 whatever floors are just right. Just right. These levels have got a lot of spectacle set pieces, specifically when you call Nico in to get you some upgrades midway through the mission. She'll just bust through a wall out of the middle of nowhere in the van. Speaking of which, that van is a completely different world. It's like a stand that has hammer space in it. It's got to be a demon. It's got to be a demon called the Minotaur. Like, I am convinced that that van is a devil arm because it's the only way that it's capable of doing some of the crap that it does. So I brought up Nico. She's the newcomer to the game. She's got an awesome character. She's like bad out of hell crazy. Exactly what you'd expect of the granddaughter of the lady who made Dante's pistols, and exactly what you would expect from the daughter of Angus from Devil May Cry 4. And yeah, Angus got laid. And I I still just can't wrap my head around that at all. Nico is great because of her interactions with Nero. In the time between this game and Devil May Cry 4, Nero has certainly mellowed out quite a bit, but he's still not the kind of guy that you would expect to play the straight man, but Nico is so crazy that Nero is forced to play the straight man in their weird buddy cop dynamic that they have going on.
I'm not crying.
Devils cry.
I'm not gonna
Kittens
cry.
cry.
Will you
Meow.
shut up? Will you
Puppies
stop
cry.
it? Look at you. You're
Why do you
nobody's
cry on my
crying, all
shoulder?
right? Stop
Come
saying
on, cry on
cry.
my shoulder. I know you
You
wanna.
say cry again. Devil May Cry. Fuck.
And it's obvious that Nico is not exactly in complete control of that van because, like, look at this. What even? Dante shows a lot more maturity, which is kind of surprising considering that we haven't seen this side of his character since Devil May Cry's 1 and 2 and the anime. But this Dante feels like a complete Dante. He feels like they've taken everything that they needed to from his other iterations and made a complete, fully realized character. V is very serious, but he has like a very dry wit about him that I really enjoy. Especially the way that like he shit talks with William Blake poetry.
Not in this lifetime. As the air to a bird, or the sea to a fish, so is contempt to the contemptible.
By the way, if you're a fan of William Blake and you play this game, you'll be able to see the twist coming from like a mile away. There are a couple of characters that get the shaft, and those characters are Lady and Trish. Lady and Trish in this game are honestly a huge disappointment to me. They are the one true negative of this game that I can't say is because of personal reasons. In this game, it's just bizarre. Trish is a source of exposition and she doesn't really do anything. It's the same with Lady. She doesn't really do anything and she isn't even a source of exposition. She's just fan service. Like, what? I would have expected these roles to have been reversed. I would have expected Trish to be the fan service and Lady to be the exposition dump. But no. There are some other characters that make some brief cameos. Kitty is more or less a cameo in this game, which I absolutely love. Everything that is cringy about Devil May Cry 4 has its source in Kitty as a character. This might sound a little bit biased, and it is. Mostly because for me, when I played Devil May Cry 4 at that time, I couldn't stand listening to an anime boy like Nero, voiced by Johnny Young Bosch, talking to an anime girl like Kitty, voiced by Stephanie Sheh. Now, I don't have anything against Stephanie Sheh at all as a voice actress. In fact, she's voiced some of my favorite characters from anime. Sami Jibi Jabba Namimi from Fooly Cooly, Audrey Byrne from Gundam Unicorn, and the female lead of Eureka 7, Eureka, in which she uses more or less the exact same voice that she did for Kitty.
Wait for me, Renton Nero.
And I wouldn't like this show as much as I do if I had a big, massive problem with Stephanie Sheh's voice in general, but that's not the case. It was the writing of Kitty that I didn't like. It was the way that she was directed that I hated, and she's not really in the game. She literally just has a few off-screen lines and that's it. And even then, it's better than she ever was in Devil May Cry 4. Because she shows some genuine concern when Nero gets his arm ripped off. And towards the end of the game, when Nero's going through a crisis of self, she comes in, he gives her a call somehow and talks to her. And he's like, I'm going through all this stuff. I'm really confused. I'm really conflicted. And Kitty gives him a little bit of a gentle nudge and some encouraging words. And he gets on his way to finish up the story. And it's great. I love it. But it doesn't make up for how Lady and Trish are treated. There's also Patty from the anime. She's the entire reason why Dante's doing anything, because he does not want to go to her 18th birthday. Because if there's one thing that scares Dante, the son of Sparta, more than anything else in this world, it's women that are DTF. There's another character from the anime that gets a big role in this game, being Morrison, who in the anime was Dante's information broker. He also fixed stuff up around the shop. He also drove Dante to his missions. And in the anime, he was white, but in the game, he's black, which I think is a lot better for his character in general. It just fits. I understand there are some people out there who are probably going to raise hell about this. It's not really a big deal. And if it is a big deal to you, then you can just leave, because my opinions probably don't matter to you anyway. And so if things from Devil May Cry 4 are here, and the anime's here, and stuff from Devil May Cry 1 is here, and there's some things from Devil May Cry 3 that are here, obviously, what about Devil May Cry 2? It's not here. It's not acknowledged. Even in the library section for the notes on the side characters, like Patty, like Kitty, Lucia isn't mentioned. Nothing that happened in Devil May Cry 2 matters anymore. Devil May Cry 2 is only mentioned in the official History of Devil May Cry video that Capcom put on the title menu, and now we have an official chronology for Devil May Cry. It goes Devil May Cry 3, then Devil May Cry 1, then the anime in Devil May Cry 2, and then Devil May Cry 4. And this game takes place a few years after Devil May Cry 4. So there you go, everybody. Now we don't have to worry about a game having to lead into the god-awful trash mountain that is Devil May Cry 2. And these characters all get to interact with a really great story. It's one of the things that enhances them so much, and it's the main reason why I personally find this game so goddamn enjoyable. It hasn't been since Devil May Cry 3 that we've seen a game in this series have really, really developed present themes. Devil May Cry 3's story was centered around themes of family and the price of power. And this game also has a lot of themes of family, the price of power, in addition to the theme of responsibility. It's a really important aspect of the game. Everything else is, pretty much straight on. You got really great cutscene direction, and if you got the deluxe edition of the game, you get to see previs versions of the cutscenes involving Japanese actors wearing really low budget outfits. If you're not going to buy the deluxe edition of the game, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about them, but if you're not going to buy the deluxe edition, go on up to the search bar right there when you're done, and go ahead and watch them. They are an absolute riot. They are precious, I swear. So, let's see here. We've covered characters, level design, spectacle, presentation, but, as is important to talk about every Devil May Cry game, what about the bosses? What about the combat encounters? They're carefully crafted as usual. The bosses themselves are pretty entertaining. This game has got a lot of fan service in it when it comes to the bosses. Remember how in Devil May Cry 3 the Garion boss fight kind of sucked? Well, guess what? There's a Garion boss fight. Remember Artemis from Devil May Cry 3? The weird, bullet rain gun thingamajig with the purple bullets? Hey, guess what? You can fight Artemis. Pretty cool, right? It is. It's a good boss fight. There's also the newcomer boss, Malphus. She's really interesting, albeit highly underutilized as a character. When she was presented in the game, I was thinking that she was going to play a much larger role in the overall plot, but no. She kind of just appears at the end of one of V's missions, telling a Nello Angelo-type demon to go find Sparta, saying, he told me to ignore it and not worry about it, and she's just gone. She is not in the story until you get towards the end of the game, where you fight her with Nero, and it's a pretty good boss fight. I actually really like that one.
How do you have so much power left?
But I hate that mission, because it's really hard to S-rank. By the way, S-ranking every mission in this game requires getting style points, which is easy for some and extremely difficult in others. Mission 8 in particular is ridiculously hard to S-rank because of how long it is, and because the boss at the end of that mission is unbeatable. It's basically round 2 against main antagonist Urizen with Nero, and you can't win. You can't win. It's really hard. So really quick before I go into performance-based stuff, I gotta mention the soundtrack. I've always had mixed opinions about the soundtracks in Devil May Cry games. I love the soundtrack in Devil May Cry's 1, 2, and 3, and I love their main themes. But Devil May Cry 4, despite all of the great music it had, its main theme, Never Surrender, was super duper cringy. Ugh, I feel nauseous just thinking about it. We will fight, we'll find a new tomorrow. We will never surrender. It encapsulated all of the cringiness of that game into a single song. But this game, on the other hand, got some great themes. Dante's theme, Subhuman, is awesome, and kudos to Capcom for re-recording the song because nobody wants a pedophile attached to their anything. Unless you're the people who published the work of the Rurouni Kenshin author, because apparently you just don't care, right? You've got V's theme, Crimson Cloud, which I absolutely love. I don't know why, but it scratches an itch in my 12-year-old self. I'm just gonna jam out to it really quick. love that shit. Rachel Fannan does an amazing job with the vocals. And it's not like I had to wait all that long to hear it, because getting style with V is really, really easy. Then there's Nero's battle music, Devil Trigger. I get that there are people who like it, but I don't. Bang, 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 pull my Devil Trigger. Is Nero cursed to just have really bad music associated with his character until the end of time? Ugh, whatever. However, my favorite track in the entire game has gotta be Nico's theme that plays when you're in the van shopping. I swear to God, I called Nico specifically to hear that. Even if I didn't have to pick anything up for the mission, I wanted to hear that song. It was that enjoyable to me. I swear to God. It's a great track. I love it. Alright, so big thing to talk about because I'm on PC is performance. I am sure as shit that this game runs fine on consoles. There can't be a problem because most games like these that are made in Japan are optimized for consoles all the time. PC performance, let's go. My CPU is a Ryzen 5 1600. It is at factory clocking, so whatever that is, I don't remember it off the top of my head, and I honestly didn't bother to write it down. Sitting on an MSI X370 Gaming Pro motherboard with an EVGA GTX 1060 6GB for the win edition graphics card with 16GB of RAM, and the game runs fine. Runs amazing. Like, it was able to maintain 60 frames per second even while recording footage, and all of it on high. I will admit that when I cranked things to ultra, I did see some slowdown, but that is because of my computer, which is the exact same reason why I experienced one hard crash, which took me quickly scrolling through the menu after frame 1 pausing getting hit, during an S rank of style, during an effect popping off for ragtime, during enemies doing their animation. That was what it took to get a hard crash, and that was only because I maxed out my VRAM. However, despite this, I did get one soft crash, which means that it was the game's fault. Right at the end of the credits, right when everything was said and done, I got a little swirly ball in the bottom left corner of the screen, and the credits music kept looping. I had to restart the game and redo the last mission, and that was it. That was the only thing that I experienced. However, this wasn't really a big deal. Mission 20 in this game isn't as hard as it's been in the past. And not only that, it gave me another chance to meet the conditions necessary for getting the secret ending, which I did. And that's really all that's left to say. In closing, one last little gripe. Why are you gonna name your evil demon tree the Clyphod, which is something from the Jewish Kabbalah, when it has parasites called nidhogg's, which are named after the world serpent of Norse mythology that hangs out around the Yggdrasil, which is also a tree? What even? However, this is a small personal gripe and doesn't actually affect the game's score at all, which, speaking of, is a 9 out of 10, solidly, without any question. This game is exactly what I wanted following Devil May Cry 4. This is exactly the kind of quality that I expect in this continual heel turn from Capcom away from mediocrity. This is what I should have felt when I was playing Kingdom Hearts 3. This sense of satisfaction with the gameplay and the story and the pacing. This feeling that the people who worked on this game had their hearts in it. From Itsuno, the producer, from every single developer that put all this time into making everything buttery smooth, to the voice actors who made everything come together so well. This game makes me feel fulfilled. So very full of fill. S-ranking every mission on Devil Hunter, which was a requirement that I gave myself before I did this review, filled me with more pride and accomplishment than EA could ever dream of. Speaking of EA, they wish that the Frostbite engine was as good as the RE engine. This is the last bit of proof needed for me to say without a doubt that the RE engine is one of the greatest that we've seen in a very, very, very long time. It can run in third person, first person, and handle the speed of Devil May Cry, no problem. But if I love this game so much, then why is it not a perfect 10? It's because of Lady and Trish. These are established characters that have established personalities that are portrayed in this game. But aside from this, everything else is amazing. And I can't wait to see what Itsuno and the team have in store for us in the future. The party is just getting started. It's finally over. This took an extremely long time to edit and put together. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share. Tell all your friends. Watch this review of a game that came out 2 weeks ago. What should I review next? I have no idea. Maybe Sekiro, maybe something else. Who cares? Let's go. We're done. Woo!